All right. Can everybody hear me? Hopefully some thumbs in the chat. Be great.
Sure can.
All good. Although I'm noticing I'm on speaker here, so let me fix that. All right, this should be a little bit more clean. And sound can be off here. Okay. How's it now? All clear?
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. All right. Okay, so let me see. We've got a few more people coming in as per normal, and then we'll get started.
Hi TJ. Can
Hiya.
we get a copy of last week's recording?
Yes. Let me just share the raw footage, and then there should be a thing in here. Give me a quick second. That would have been the 13th, if I'm not mistaken.
Two copies. Yeah,
Uh,
13, that's right.
let me see. Recording 2 and recording 1. 1915. I'm guessing it's this one. I hope it is.
I shared a link in the chat for last week's recording. So it leads directly to the video.
You did already?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fatia. Okay, perfect. I think we are recording as well, so that should be good. And then let me try and get back into my companion mode here. All right. So we are like cutting out a few of the bits for the YouTube videos so that like it's a bit more appropriate for that particular part. That's why uploading takes a little bit longer. Fatia has been editing a lot, starting to get like a lot better at it, right, Fatia? Right. Okay. So I think with that, let's just get started. So yeah. For those who are new here, I'm TJ, specialist in highly gifted education with Passend Education. We're on a mission to make gifted kids more happy, autonomous, and successful. And for the parents joining us, thank you for coming in these questions and answers, because it's really important that we as educators and as parents do everything we can together to help these kids. And in this series, we're going to be talking about the different Betts and Neihart profiles that basically we've been talking about the last 2 sessions. So we've talked about the adjusted successful, the challenging creative types. Of course, we talked about the autonomous successful types as well, the ones, and that's where we want kids to eventually end up. Or if they're already there, we want to keep them there, of course. So small recap, we're looking at accomplishments versus social acceptance and social ability. And whereas accomplishment, of course, is kind of like from poor to good, social sits a bit in the middle. Like if you're too agreeable and over adjust, then you lose out on opportunities. And if you are unadjusted and you act out, then that's also not good. So we want people to basically be in that Goldilocks zone in the middle. Now, the important bits that that basically make up accomplishment for gifted kids are relatedness. How well do I feel part of the group that I'm in? My competence, like how good am I at things, and how much can I affect my surrounding, and then autonomy. So how much of a choice do I have? And autonomy is really, really important with gifted kids. So today I actually want to talk a little bit more about the underground types. So underground, as you can see, sits under the adjusted successful, and it's very common. That's why the lines sort of are here on the screen for these particular kids and these profiles to slowly move from where they are, and if things aren't going right, towards the profile that these lines follow. And that's not always the case. I've seen kids go from adjusted successful to challenging creative. And it might also be interesting to know that like some kids like to act differently around different people. So we tend to say that in these particular profiles, how they act most of the time is the kind of profile that we attribute to them. But we do see that in some situations with some teachers, kids behave very, very differently. And that's why sometimes people go, oh, like I don't recognize this particular part in the kids. But if you normally look at and observe the kids a little bit longer, you start seeing that these actual profiles really, really match with what you expect. So let's talk a little bit about the underground students. So who are they to begin with? So underground students are over-adjusting so much so that basically their actual performance is starting to slip. So when we were talking about adjusted successful initially, what we're saying is that they're often really good performance, straight A students, they're doing quite well, but they are doing it to please others around them. And when you're doing that, when you're trying to please people around you, particularly with gifted kids, that is a form of underperformance. So what happens is a lot of these kids know internally that they can do better. And if that belief that like, "Oh, I feel I need to be able to do better," sort of starts fading like away, maybe they even start forgetting that they can do better, or they start sort of falling behind a little bit. But what tends to happen is we see them go towards underground, right? So what we see is that there's a lot of pressure with these underground kids to fit in, but there is a disconnect between what they can do. So their performance has dropped, and because their attitude has been a lot towards pleasing people around them, it becomes almost like an existential crisis for them. And then the behaviors that they start to display are coping mechanisms with the inability to keep up with what they originally could, right? So because they are trying to adjust, but they feel like they can't do it, they blame themselves, right? Because they internalize almost everything, and they start to do everything they can to go underground, to hide. Now, this is very common when we see this happening, is most of the time in early adolescence. And that is kind of logical because initially, particularly in primary, most of our gifted kids do extremely well. Right? So it's quite easy to please people around them. It's quite easy to fit in, and because they're so over adjusting, they often avoid difficult social situations. So when they avoid these difficult social situations, they become pretty bad at managing their emotions. That's the same with all the other gifted kids. Unfortunately, what they tend to do, they tend to sort of internalize this. So they really start saying, okay, this is my fault. I can't do anything about it. I'm just not very good. So you start seeing them downplaying their abilities. And this is a very important marker. So when you start seeing kids that say things like, "Oh, you know what? I'm not good at math. Math is just not for me." That is a real big alarm bell. Like for me, particularly when I assess kids, if they say, "Oh, I'm not that good at this," I sometimes try to trick them a little bit by giving them like little hidden math questions, and then you start seeing like, "Oh, actually, they have this innate ability, but they're so scared to make mistakes." A lot of these kids sit in the perfectionism trait as well. Yeah, that's really big problem, and you start seeing early onset of this, like very early on in year 5 or 6. But it starts to become worse and worse and worse as they get older, and as they actually progress more towards high school exam time. And like obviously when the stress and when the compounded knowledge that they need to know keeps going up and up and up, and they're not actually studying hard, they're not building the skills that they need, and they're constantly blaming themselves for it, it becomes a bit of a vicious cycle where you can see them really slowly go down. But another thing that we see is that they're constantly trying to make everybody around them like feel pleased with them. So they're very kind, they're very friendly. They're basically constantly trying to please everybody around them, but it's their peers and so on. So you see them change their behavior very often to try and get basically a little bit more attention from people around them, right? So and they will always say yes. Like, okay, I'll do this, even if it's something that they originally said, no, I don't want to do this. Like, you know, that they often don't like these kind of situations. And then what happens is they basically, again, like lose little bits of themselves. The way that manifests is that they will try to avoid challenges just so that they won't get noticed. So if they start realizing that, oh, actually, if I start engaging with some of this stuff, I might fail at it. Then people see that I'm not as smart or not as good as I thought as people thought I was. Again, don't forget, a lot of them started and are just successful. So they're very used to success and they're very used to praise. So they've lost that bit for them. So what the way that you can get around this is, of course, so not engaging with stuff. So saying things like, I'm just not good at math. That's not my thing. I have this other thing that I'm good at, and I'll only focus on that. But or like it can get a little bit worse. They can start missing exams accidentally, right? So it's like, okay, like they're sick a little bit more often than normal. So that's a problem that we tend to see. But what you notice is that their performance declines very gradually. So if they started at A star, it just starts slipping, you know, like to the bottom of A star, then it becomes A, B, and so on. So that is a very gradual, very soft kind of thing. And often there's a lot of excuses that come with this, like why that is the case. Generally speaking, they'll start grasping at things that they're really strong at. So dropping things, stopping sports that they used to enjoy. And it's really frustrating for him because they obviously are experiencing a lot of conflict in themselves between their actual ability and their social identity, right? So that is the key characteristics that we see in these particular kids. But what is important to know is that like we need to help them. Like obviously, like if we let this go, they will go towards what we call the at risk. And in the at risk zone, particularly on this over adjusted bit, is really dangerous. There's a lot of self-harm in this particular situation, and worse, unfortunately. So we have to arrest them here. If we start really recognizing that this is where we have these kids, we have to do a lot of work to get these kids up. Sorry, my cat is shouting for food around here, so hopefully that gets sorted very quickly. Oh, can you switch on the aircon as well? That'd be nice. Okay, so we're all used to this from when we were all living in COVID, I think. So so what basically what need do they have? So what we're trying to fix? Well, there's 4 things that are really important. Effectively, the way that they put social adjustment on a pedestal in terms of like how they should act towards others, what they need is they need to feel safe in being able to be themselves, right? So that is a big need. The second thing is we need to support them with their own identity forming. So it's a lot of encouragement and a lot of opportunities for them to try new things and really like explore what other options and things that they have. So the other thing, the 4th thing is guidance to rebuild confidence and autonomy. So building confidence is a skill. Like that's the good news, right? So it's just practice. It's effectively confidence is doing things in spite of fear, right? That's basically what confidence should be. Bravery is a really nice word for it as well, right? So we need to help them become brave, and the only way that you become brave is practicing scary stuff. It's a bit of a recurring theme when it comes to kids that are gifted, like practicing the emotions that they're struggling with. But here, that's really important. So they need that safety, need to feel secure, and then effectively we need to help them deal with things that would, well, otherwise they're not very confident at all. And then last one is peer groups. So peer groups for these particular kids are really important. For them to see, oh, I'm not the only one that is struggling with this particular emotion is really good. Right? So they are already quite socially active, like unlike the unadjusted that can often go like, I don't want to participate in stuff at all. They're the exact opposite. They want to participate in things. So the peer classes for them are extremely, extremely important. And therefore, like if any of your parents have done assessment with us and the kids, I've said like, hey, they're basically saying, oh, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this. Like that kind of language is very closed mindset language, which is very common with underground behavior types. And I think it's very important for them that the peer class happens. And we focus a lot more on social stuff with kids like this, like learning how to play, enjoying themselves and so on. And therefore, like, yeah, again, the peer classes, I can't stress enough how important they are for them. Now, what do we see in school with these kids? Like, so what are the teachers normally looking for that I trained? Well, the first one is like they used to be the first one to raise their hands. So it's like, oh, I know this, and they stopped doing that, right? And like, or it's slower. It's a bit more, like later, like slightly later. So you're not the first one to notice. So that is very, very common. The other thing is that if you notice that you have them at home, you're kind of wondering, is my kid a bit underground? Is what you can do is you can give them a choice and then see if they take the hard work or the easier work. Right. So if you started noticing that they've stopped engaging with some of their original hobbies and said like, oh, this is frustrating, I'm not doing this stuff anymore, or homework where they have like a choice to put something out and they choose the easy route, even though you know that they used to be very creative writers. That is one of the things that we look for in school as well, like changes in that behavior. And then that drop in motivation, of course, that you can see, it's like, oh, I don't want to go to school, tummy aches, things like that. And then things like, I don't care about this. That's also a very common phrase. It's like, oh, no, I don't care that much about math. It's okay. Like there's a lot of like cognitive dissonance towards like things like, oh, but you need to know math. Yeah, but I'm not good at it, even though it's absolutely not true. And you can prove to them often that they're good at math, but when you when you then tell them that, they'll say, no, that's just not me. They really start identifying as somebody that can't do stuff, for example. Sometimes the phrasing that the teachers will use is, oh, they seem to be more lazy or they seem more disengaged. That's a very common way of phrasing how these kids basically engage in school. So if you hear that being said, or you've seen it with any other kids that you know, then be mindful that we could potentially be dealing with somebody who's gone underground. So what are we going to do? Like how we're going to help them? Well, first of all, gentle encouragement. This is very important with positive discipline principles. So encouragement, needs to happen without spotlighting it. So like, because they when you go in and very commonly say, oh, they don't have confidence, so I'll bring them in front of class, or I'll bring them in front of a group of friends, and I'll just say, you know what, you did really well. And we think that will boost their confidence, but actually they internally they think, oh no, I'm faking it. It's not true. I know I'm struggling. So what we need to do here at this point is we need to encourage them, but privately, right? So you take them aside and then tell them, wow, I really like what you did there. But again, not the effort, not the we focus on the effort. We don't focus on the result. Okay. Hold on a second. Rijke, can you be quiet a little bit? Thank you. Right. So, okay. The next thing that we need to do, we need to do one-on-one check-ins. And this is tough sometimes, right? So let me just write this down so that we know what we need to do. So encourage, but no spotlight. That's the first one. The second one that we need to do is check-ins. So check-ins, and these have to be one-on-one. That's important, right? So take your time to sit with them. Try to get their guards down. A very good thing to do is find something that you both like with your kids. So that could be like reading something initially, just bring stuff down. It could be like if you both have a bit of a hobby. Clay work is really good. So basically an opportunity for you to go sit in, or even just let them work on their homework, sit next to them. And at some points there will be moments where you can see that they're calm, they're working, and then you tap them on the shoulder, say, hey, how are you doing? So these check-ins are important, like, and they need to feel like they can sort of, I'm stressed, I'm frustrated with this. But what is important is that you don't actually fix things immediately for them, right? It's about showing them that, like, okay, I'm here for you to sort of respond to you on this, but at the same time, I'm not here to judge you on the fact that you sometimes might not actually do this well, because they're in closed mindset. You need to help them come out of that closed mindset. So yeah, the check-ins, but again, as I said, focus again on the effort, not on the results. This one is important. So offer choices, right? So offer choices. Agency, again, very, very, very important in this. And autonomy. So now autonomy is actually a little bit more than just a choice. It is also the ability to take the responsibility that comes with it, and that is really important, right? So, like, if you just have a choice, but there is no real agency, there's no result that comes out of a choice, and then nobody cares. It's easy enough. But if the choice that you make has some real impact on how you're going to act, like, or what things you have access to, that is just really, really, really important, right? So choices and autonomy. That's the third thing that we do. The fourth one is safe peer groups. And safe peer groups, really, obviously, it's something that you hear a lot in the news about, like, what does that mean? Like, do we need to, like, segregate? And I don't believe that is true. Like, in a peer group, in my mind, is people with like-minded thoughts. All the other stuff is really, to me, not that important. I've lived too many years in different countries, and I've had kids from all walks of life. But I find it very interesting is when you talk about peer groups in relation to kids in gifted education, that they're so similar, and it's a lot of fun, like how that works. My cat is going completely nuts, and that one too. Okay, so after that little interlude, yeah, safe peer groups. Now, obviously, we do this in the school, right? The peer classes are specifically designed for that. We try to really find kids together. You've probably noticed that in some of our classes, we actually move kids around, simply because we want those group dynamics to be really good. And unlike what a lot of like school project work sometimes, like how people think that works, we need to mingle them because everybody needs to learn how to act around everybody else. And yeah, of course, like we should learn that, but not all the time, right? Sometimes it's nice to go and see people that think in the same way, have the same kind of struggles, that understand each other, where you can actually have a conversation about like how difficult it is. And it's kind of funny. Like I've got a new group of A-level students that initially were struggling a little bit with this, and we did a little bit of team building stuff, and they were like it wasn't quite there. And I whipped out a little bit of clay, and I set them down, and because they basically they had like a really difficult CA that they struggled with, and the way that they prepared for it wasn't quite what they were expecting. And this was the new kids that came in. My older A-level kids, they sort of were like, yeah, the CA wasn't really fair, but at least the way that we prepared, we were kind of fine. So half the group was like, okay, we understand all of this, but we've come kind of through it. And the other half was full in like rage mode and stuff like that. And there was almost no way that we could get that group to actually do anything that was planned for that lesson. So I decided to just say, okay, we'll grab out the clay and we'll start making. They said, why don't we take this frustration and then make it into something? And if you want to smash it afterwards, you be my guest. And we started having a long discussion about all this stuff, with my older students talking about, yeah, we had the same struggle and now we don't. And you could see, like, within 5 to 10 minutes, the peace with the situation was there. And then they started talking about like constructive things that they could do to help each other. And that just went all across the table for quite a while. And I think after 40 minutes, the lesson was supposed to be over. They were all sitting there still doing stuff, to the point where someone was like, oh man, I made this little clay thing. I don't really want to leave it behind, or like throw it away or something along those lines, because it still has to dry. Right. So there was all of a sudden a bit more of a connection to the thing that they made, but definitely also to the kids that they spoke to. And this is a particular group where I would say a lot of them are in this adjusted successful situation. I don't think anybody in that group is challenging creative at all. But like, if you let that particular kind of language about CAs and stuff continue, then basically there's a good chance that will go towards underground. So you have to help them with these safe peer groups. And like at face value, that doesn't necessarily immediately look like, okay, are you doing something really related to education at all? But in that particular moment, we talked about like 3 different things, and they didn't come from me at all. They came from my older students that have been with me for a while. And you could see the other kids go, oh yeah, actually, that's pretty good. And one of the students over the weekend sent a quick email to me saying, hey, actually, little check-in. I've done this much like practice and stuff like that I normally wouldn't have done. And I even went to the gym. Like, I'm keeping to my word, Mr. TJ. And it's great, because I'm convinced that came from that peer group specifically. So what is the 5th thing that we want to do? Well, celebrate basically wins privately. Okay, I don't know what's up today. Can you guys take that to mama? Is that okay? Yeah, Jasper, you too. That's right. Take it to mama. All right. Okay, so with that little nice interlude, so celebrate wins privately. And I want to go a little bit a step further, like chosen wins. Right? Because they feel like they don't have a lot of agency because they want to please people. And I am kind of a person that I don't like competition when it's forced at all. Right. So it's one of the big reasons when it comes down to how the overall grading systems in a lot of places work, that they make me feel like it's very unfair. Right. So because we're asking people to say, you know what, here's a test, and you be ready. Now we've got one student that, like, in one of the other schools, who lost her mother very recently, and she's gone through a lot of distress. Is it really fair that we are asking her to be tested at the same time? Like there's people, kids that I work with, that have gone through like heavy divorces, and yet we say, okay, here's these grades and everything counts. So it's very forced at that point. And them not being able to do as well at their exams right now, I don't believe has anything to do with their actual ability at all. But on the flip side of that, if somebody chooses, then everything is 100% gas. Like the way I say is, like, if you choose to go for a competition, if you choose to want to achieve something, you're telling me you're ready for it. Right? So that agency is there. It's all there. You choose. And then once you've made that choice, you're 100% committed. And then we go deep to the bottom. Then I expect you to figure out how to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, if that is what you need. I expect you to figure out how to put down your devices an hour before bedtime so that you can get your 8-hour sleep in the morning. before you wake up in the morning, right? And you'd be surprised like how some of these kids go like, okay, actually, if I really want to do something, how much they're willing to put aside. And that is actually a big skill that we don't really practice with these kids, right? And there's not a lot of encouragement there for that. So when I suggest like, hey, okay, let's find the time for you to do the thing that you want to do to really, really win. And they try it and they go, oh, okay, that worked. That they need a lot of positive reinforcement. But those wins I do very, very privately with them. And particularly for the kids that are in the underground bit. So at home, that's the same thing. That's very important if you have a more quiet, over-adjusting, gifted kids, but there's siblings that might be completely different, right? So like sometimes a little bit of friendly competition among siblings is absolutely great, but for these particular kids, the wins that you do celebrate, you have to do privately. Okay. And then this is the other bit there. If they're already in this underground mode and the performance is slipping, obviously it's very natural to go, hey, your grades are going down, and what can we do and to help? And often it's there'll be parents that will come and say like, oh, you know what, that's okay, you know, like as long as you do your best, it's fine. But if you want, you can get some tuition. But when you're saying that, you're actually subconsciously saying, actually, I do care about the grades. And it's really tough because we do care about the grades, right? So you can't really say like, look, I don't care about the grades, because you are worried about the rat race that is life. And you are worried about all those kind of things. And it's very natural. And particularly if you see people go, okay, these are A-star students, and they have 13 A-stars or 14 A-stars on the IGCSEs. You see that, you go, man, I wish I could do the same thing for my kid. Right. So, those mixed messagings actually make things very, very hard for her. So if a child is in that particular situation, managing expectations is really, really important. Right? In terms of like, okay, let them find themselves. So here's what we're talking about is we need to build up their self-esteem first. We need to, again, make them feel happy. Like these kids are categorically not happy anymore. And when you do that, though, like you'll be very surprised how quickly that actually escalates. We had one girl we worked with that basically went like, you know what, I can't do this. I'm just not good at this. I'm not good at this. She used to be this straight A student. Right now, when we started working, she was like D's and C's, and she was like, nope, I'm just not there. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. There's all these things that I want to do. We spent quite a lot of time with the mom, particularly like, hey, you know, like this is let her run into some of the challenges that she then says there are. This girl wanted to go to Japan. So I said, oh, sounds great. She was like, oh, you're not going to stop me? So no, do you want to start some Japanese lessons? Oh, yeah, not sure. I said, well, you want to go to Japan? Let's go. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we'll figure that one out. But then actually when she started doing a little bit of Japanese, I took her aside. So, hey, like I saw that you were doing some Japanese. Yeah, it's hard. I said, yeah, isn't that fun? Yeah. So I said, I really like that you're doing that. But I purposely didn't speak to it to her parents about it initially, until she decided to tell her mom, I want to do this. So like all of this is about building up the confidence for them to say, okay, I can get into the habit of doing the right work to get here. And then once they feel confident again, then it will start happening. And we said, you know what, it's fine. Like we'll work for the C's, but she's no longer working for C's. She's already working for B's and A's. Because she's starting to pick up the confidence again. She's starting to pick up the habits of studying again, rather than looking for excuses. And as a result, her grades are going up. But it's almost like this magical, like a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. The more you're trying to grasp for it, the further it goes away. So in this sort of situation, it's all about like enjoying the ability to see the actual rainbow and basically being able to consistently do the work. Okay, and then the last thing that is really important is like address perfectionism, because almost all of these are perfectionists. They are scared to fail, like fear of failure is one of it. They tend to grasp one thing, and it's very common for them to take the perfectionism as a way to procrastinate, because it's kind of the perfect way to procrastinate without getting in trouble. Like, it looks like they're working hard, and they are, like doing something that they're good in. So that you can't really challenge them on the fact that they're not finished, but they're doing it at the cost of other things. And the ones that are very clever do it in like the few subjects that matter, and then there's maybe a few subjects that don't matter in people's eyes, like Bahasa or like Mandarin for some. It like depends. Every family is different in this. So the perfectionism we really need to work on. And perfectionism is kind of an interesting one, because I think what I can do with perfectionism is I can talk to you a bit about like what I do to help anybody that does do perfect. And this is actually the hard one for a lot of people. But how do you deal with perfectionism? Well, perfectionism is effectively an executive functioning problem, right? So executive functioning, there's a lot to it, is about the ability to break down break down tasks, you know, and then follow up to completion. And there's different reason why that is difficult. So kids with ADHD struggle with this because they often either overcommit, so hyper focus on one thing, therefore they cannot stop doing anything else. ADHD can also make it so that it's very hard for them, if you break things down, that they can't really tell which one is more important than the other. And there's a lot of overwhelm involved. And executive functioning problems in these kids actually has a lot to do with overwhelm specifically. So they feel they have too much stuff to do and they can't do it. So therefore they almost like mentally burn out. And that is the big thing that we need to help them with. So what do we do when we have kids that are, and this is where the projects come in. Like, so this in our peer classes, the projects are so important. And I've told a lot of you before that a lot of these projects don't really finish, or they end up in places where the kids go like, okay, I kind of didn't quite do the right thing. It didn't work. It's very tough for them because we are challenging them in this and they're challenging themselves in it. But the perfectionist kids, they almost always bite off way more than they can chew, and they go way too deep. So what we do with them is we actually start off with very clear goals, right? Like, what is it that we're trying to achieve? And I think like maybe there's some others in parents here that have issues with this. But what you often tend to see with people that are perfectionists is they lose track of the actual goal of the thing they're trying to do. And they're just trying to make the thing that they are doing perfect, but that perfect often doesn't align with the original goal of the task to begin with. And a lot of parents that I work with and a lot of teachers that I work with are pretty poor at setting goals. So we use the SMART system, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard before. So they need to be smart. So they have to be specific, measurable, action-oriented, so that you have to do things to get them done, realistic and time-bound. This is a very old framework. It just works really well. It's kind of fun. You have a lot of opportunities for weak puns in class, so the kids like it. But a lot of people don't do this very often. So you need to start here. And with the kids that are perfectionists, we will not let them start a project until this SMART goal is correct. And that can sometimes take 1 or 2 weeks. So that's kind of the opposite of what you think. So yeah, but you have to get started. It's like, nope. Like you have 4 weeks for a project. And if you take more than a week on your SMART goal, then you might not have an actual project at the end. And it's okay to run into that, right? Because they go, yeah, but I haven't gotten started. It's like, yes, that's right. Pick a smaller SMART goal. Now, obviously, we will coach them through this. So most of them will absolutely get their SMART goal okay. But after a while, they might lose track of it. So after they've done the SMART goal, the next step that we do is we actually do a thing called the bubble map. So a bubble map is a way to basically break down a task. So when you have a SMART goal, a particular project, things sound very daunting. That is definitely a thing that a lot of the when you're talking about like, okay, the underground kids so going like, oh, I can't do this. Like when you start getting to the SMART goals, there'll be moments where they say, oh, I can't do this again, right? So we need to help them break things down into manageable chunks. Now, when we do that, what we basically say, we put a bubble map, we take this SMART goal. So we start with a goal in the middle. Now, let's say, let's use an example that we had. So one of the kids right now in our class, basically, he said, I want to learn how an LLM actually works, and then I want to actually compare them. So how do I compare them? What is the best one? And then he came up with a SMART goal that eventually was like quite deep. So I challenged him a lot on like, okay, be more specific. Like how many LLMs do you want to test? Like how do you want to measure like this? Like what? Like how do we know that you've done it? Oh, I need to make a rubric. Okay, so by using a rubric. Okay, and then I mean, I won't go too much detail like what it was, but he ended up by saying, okay, I'm going to get all the LLMs making a rubric for testing the actual LLM models, and I'm going to use all of them on each other, and I'll use 3, which is kind of a fun thing. So like pushing them against each other, and then I said, and I'll put my own matrix in there too. So great, sounds like a good goal. So you have this goal here, and he was sitting there in class, and I went, okay, go ahead, make that right now. And he says, no, I can't do that. So it's like, okay, what do you need? Well, like I have no idea how LLMs work. So how do they work? How are they working? So what I need to do for that is I need to do research. Right? Okay. So some research. Okay, what else do you need to do? I need to subscribe to 3 LLMs. Because yeah, like I want to test 3 and I want to test the full thing. Okay, you have to do that. What else do you need to do? Well, I need to make a presentation because they always have to present to us after they're done. Okay, and then I have to present. Okay, that's the thing he needs to do. He needs to make the rubric. He had to do that too, to check all this stuff. And as you can see, like there's like all these things that need to happen. So okay, well, like how does this work? This one actually came out to like I have to ask 5 questions that he wants to answer in order to learn something about this. So okay, I first need to figure out what I want to learn. Great. After that, I have to do some research. And then after I do some research, I make a rubric. Then I'll go to the LLMs, and they realize, oh, and then I have to make my my LLM rubrics, right? Okay, there we go. After that, I have to analyze. Great. And then I have to make a presentation, and then I have to present. And if that is done, I've completed my goal. So with a little bit of help here, we just went straight into like a critical path. So for a lot of kids that are perfectionistic, they'll just start working and they'll keep working. And then last night they'll try to fix whatever they have. But basically what you're doing with this bubble map question is you're asking them to think about, okay, what are things that you need to do? And basically, like if they go, I need to subscribe, and you go like, okay, can you do, like if that's where you started, so can you do that right now? So no, I don't know which ones to subscribe to. Okay, well then what do you need? Well, I need to research a little bit more. Okay, can you research now? And if the answer is like, well, yes, but I don't know what I'm looking for, then say, okay, well then you need questions. And then the question is, can you make questions now? And the answer would most likely be, oh yeah, actually, I can do that, no problem. So here you can start as long as you have, but it could be like, oh no, I don't have my laptop or whatever. It's okay, well, get laptop is the first thing. And you have like all these little mini tasks. Now, with most gifted kids, when we work with them, this is enough. Like it's okay, they can get started. We need to help them a bit. But with the underground kids and the perfectionistic kids, what needs to happen is we need to assign some time to this. Now, if they get 4 weeks, it's like, okay, well, how long would you need to make some questions? So maybe that's like 15 minutes, okay? Okay, to research, how much do you need? Like 30 minutes, okay? make a rubric. Well, that will probably be about like 20 minutes worth of work. Okay. Now that is 50, so 105. So we have 25 more minutes. Can you subscribe? Yeah, I can do that. Like maybe that will take 20 minutes. Okay. But do you have time for the rubric? No, that's not it. So basically, this is their week 1 work. Week 1. Week 2, they have to do all of this. And week 3, they present. And now we have like a bit of more of a plan. And say, okay, we've got this time. Now, what happens with kids that are perfectionistic, they'll start this first 15 minutes and they will not finish. So we come up with what we call the 80% rule. So that's the big thing that is important here. 80% rule. And this is sort of based on the 80-20 split. So it takes 20% of your time to finish something to 80%, and it takes 80% of your time to finish the other 20. Sure, many of you have heard of this. So what we tell the kids that are perfectionistic on almost all our underground kids is like, okay, we're going to agree from here on that any job that you're going to do with this, we're going to be okay with 80%. And we're going to be very firm on that. So I'm going to help you with managing this time. And this is basically, we will have lots of timers going off in our sessions. We say, okay, you say you're going to make questions, like 5 of them that you want to ask, and you need 50 minutes. So I'm going to give you a 50-minute timer, and either one of, and a few things can happen. So either one, so this 80% rule, either one, we're going to get to 80%, and we realize it. So the timer is not done yet. You're at 80%, and you catch yourself. Then at that point, we're going to agree that we're going to move on to the next task, regardless of if you have some extra time or anything else. Like, so after 10 minutes, they've done 5 questions, but they go, like I could have like another question there, or like others, like I could rephrase this a little bit. It's like, no, if you got 5 questions and they're like, you can understand them, we move on, right? So that's it. So that's the first option that happens. So we realize before time is over, or time is up. So the time actually is finished. And then we check 80%, question mark. And if it's yes, move on. So if not, you have to do a little bit of a change. So if time is up, 80%. If it's yes, next question. But if the answer is no, we have to first reflect. Why not? So we'll ask them, what happened? Yeah, like it was harder than I thought, or I'm doing something here. And this is where, obviously, as an educator, we have to coach them a lot. We'll go like, hey, be mindful. This thing itself might not be so good for you. Or you're thinking too far through, or and this is very common, they have strayed from their SMART goal. Right. So with gifted kids that are like perfectionistic, we often say things like, make sure that this is your minimum viable product in the actual SMART goal. We bake that in, because else they're trying to solve world hunger basically with their first attempt. And that is a little bit unrealistic, of course. So yeah, we help them with reflecting first. And then either one of 2 things happen. We do one more attempt at like redoing the task. So we say, here's another 15 minutes, see if you can fix that. Or we completely redo the goal, right? So this is often when the goal is if we already know the goal is too hard, we've basically let them run into a problem. So you said you're going to do this in 15 minutes, but what you're doing now is like it can't work. And because we've agreed on this particular thing before we even get started, they actually kind of keen and saying, yeah, okay, this is fine. I can do this, right? So that's that 80% loop. Now, of course, If they attempt again and they get to 80%, we move on to the next task, and there we go. And it's like most of the time when we start helping them with this, you start seeing this relief like drop off, like come over to them. So when they say, oh man, like I can get stuff done and I can be okay with like something not being perfect immediately. And what happens is that a lot of them actually end up with a lot of extra time at the end of that first week. And then we say, okay, now you've got the basis of the stuff that you need. It's all 80%. Now you can spend the extra time that you gained on making things a little bit better where you think it's okay, right? But next week, you can't keep doing that. Like you can't fall back into this. And when you start doing that with them, you start know that they like this needs a lot of one-on-one coaching. So a lot of the kids that I work with this and where my teachers work with, they'll take them aside for this particular part of it until they've run through this a few times. And then we ask them to be very helpful with each other. So today, I think we had like in the pull-out session, we had like 8 kids working on different projects that all came in. They were very mindful of each other. Like in the first few sessions when we had that, where some of them were, you know, like kind of loud and doing their own thing, but now they're starting to really help each other. When somebody says, hey, you know, like that what your video you're watching for your research a bit loud, can you use my headset to make that softer? They will comply. And even the kids with ADHD that we have in the group are starting to do that really well. So it's really nice to see how that confidence is building for them to also like start talking up about all that sort of stuff. But yeah, this is this is basically the steps that we want to help them see work with at home. So a little bit of a recap. The underground strategy is a coping mechanism. That's a very, very important thing to say. They're not misbehaving if their grades are sliding or if they're just acting like they're sick. It's a coping mechanism. They're scared, really scared. Often they haven't had the chance to deal with that fear. Therefore, all of this kind of behavior is something that we have to help them with. So you also have to realize that even though that right now maybe their strengths are not there, they're hidden, right? So they are there. They are good at math, even though they say, I'm not a math person, right? And if they're basically saying, oh, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that because I'm not good at it, like we need to give them that confidence to get that particular thing back. So they need trust and they need the right kind of peer and environment to re-engage. Once that happens, they start moving down the line towards like self-managed and autonomous quite quick. So it's actually kind of an advantage because learning about yourself and your fears and how to overcome them is actually really powerful. So them being that deep in there and then coming out of it, they often become some of our hardest workers and stuff when it comes to self-studying and things like that. So they will overtake the adjusted successful approach, whereas the kids that are in this adjusted successful are often a little bit harder to show that things aren't going well because they're getting straight A's. It's like, yeah, but I'm getting straight A's. Like, why am I doing all this? What's the point? And it's like, well, there is potentially a point in the future, and you are doing things for other people, not yourself. So they need to run into that particular wall a little bit earlier, and that's where we need to help them with. So finally, like we want to restore their identity, their belonging, and make them safe and more visible, so that they will be able to take their place in society a little bit more. So I think I have some time for some questions if people still have those in the chat. Looking forward to some of those if possible. I try to answer a few questions from the questionnaire throughout this session, particularly about like how to deal with perfectionism and of course the underground behavior that comes with it. But if there is no questions, then I would thank you guys again for your time with me today. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that's the bit there. So we have all these Q&As online in the YouTube channel. So please come in and subscribe to that. Share it with people. No problem at all. Leave some comments. Leave some reviews for us. That would be nice too. I hope this has helped. And again, I'll see you guys next week.